Well, many people have compared the riots here with those in Los Angeles in 1992. Joining us from the city is Bernard Kinsey, who chaired Rebuild Los Angeles, an organisation which was in charge of redevelopment after the city's 1992 riot. Bernard, do you see those similarities with what's happened within the past few days in England?
Yes, I see some similarities. The reality is that mayors and prime ministers in this case, you never know what is going on in these communities until something like this happens, and it's very sobering when it happens. But this is the what happens when, first of all, the police they don't respond properly as they could have, and we had the same problem in Los Angeles. Had the police responded quickly, it would have been contained. Now, having said that, the issues that you have at the margins there in London are really what's driving this wanton destruction and thievery that we've been seeing on TV. All over the world. Actually, I was just came back from China, and it was big news there also.
What do you mean by when you say the issues that are happening on the margins? What do you mean by that, if you can be specific?
Well, I was invited over in 1994 by the English government to apply some of the things that we learned in Los Angeles. Let me just help your visitors understand what happened in Los Angeles. We lost 1,078 buildings, about $2 billion of actual loss, $1 billion covered by insurance. So it was $1 billion net loss. And over the last 10 to 15 years, we've put almost $2 billion back into South Los Angeles. And we have been able to restore and put in place businesses and services that were never there. For instance, an area with about 3 million people, which was the affected area in Los Angeles, had approximately 6 supermarkets. And now there are over 40 supermarkets that serve that population. And what we found is that when you bring services to people and also hire from the communities, you have a much better chance of breaking the cycle of poverty. Giving people more responsibility and more of a ability to run their neighborhoods. And L.A. is a great example. I mean, we have been able to do some things here that no other city in the U.S. was able to accomplish throughout all of the 60s and 70s when we had earlier riots.
But the argument here is, if I can interject, is that this isn't about poverty, that this is about a group of young people who were just benefiting from what turned into a rather lawless state and were helping themselves to goods that they were obviously not entitled to. This wasn't about poverty.
Well, I didn't suggest that it was totally about poverty, but I bet it's about jobs and being disaffected in those particular communities. And in no way do I want your viewers to think that I am condoning this. I didn't condone it here in Los Angeles. But when you really look at these neighborhoods and see how people, and your situation in London is it may be a beginning to, for us here in Los Angeles, because you had severe cuts already, which we have not yet gone through, which is going to be interesting to see how the American public deals with tremendous cuts to all of the basic services that we've taken for granted, including police. So it will be we may be calling you to get some ideas about how we should deal with it. But I tell you one thing, I think your prime minister, I mean, both your mayor and your prime minister were on vacation, which it seems that this type of situation always happens when they're out of town. But I would say to him and others that after you get this thing in control, I think what you want to do is lower the rhetoric. And that's what you hear a lot of the politicians now doing about being tough. And guess what? They should be tough, and people should be prosecuted, so forth and so on. But I would not just say that this just happened because people, had Twitter accounts, which is what people are saying, that, people just, could do it, and they did it. I think there are probably a lot more root causes that the citizens of London, particularly certain neighborhoods, will have to deal with. And I noticed that in '94 when you all invited me over, that there was a lot of pockets of poverty and a lot of people that were not part of the main society there in London and in England. And I think that it speaks to some of the similar issues that we have here in Los Angeles even today.
Bernard Kinsey, fascinating to speak to you. Thank you very much for your time. Bernard Kinsey from the organisation Rebuild Los Angeles, which was helping Los Angeles after the city's 1992 riots.